Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. Call first. The building's been locked for almost 2 years, and I've been meeting at a fellowship nearby, but then our pastor died over there. It's been an interesting time to be in any faith whatsoever. Things have changed in the last 2 years. Call 612-315-6778 before you attend. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, our reality, our existence, things like that. We try not to be disparate. We try to make sense. We're Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship, and today we're talking about consciousness. Intelligence is important, but consciousness is very interesting, and we'll be discussing physics like biophotons and AI and things like that. The main thing is it's in the Bible. And so I'm going to be arguing that this is Revelation 13:15, and it was given to it to give breath. In the Greek, that would be pneuma. In the Hebrew, I'm arguing it would be ruach or neshamah. Is it consciousness, though, to the icon, the image, the graven image, of the beast, the anti-Messiah? So that's Revelation 13:15. We'll be showing you information that I believe that we're going to see them hack consciousness at some level. And we'll give you some reasons for that. Biophotons fit into it, so please stick with me. So computers, are we talking about real or synthetic consciousness? Computer intelligence is programming, okay? So the expression of computational intelligence usually refers to the ability of a computer to learn a specific task from data or experimental observation, even though it is commonly considered a synonym of soft computing or software. There is still no commonly accepted definition of computational intelligence. Interesting. And I work with AI all day long and bots and whatever else. On the other hand, there's computer, and I'm substituting the word breath in there, computer consciousness. Of course, a computer can be conscious. No, it really can't. But the human brain, for instance, is a computer, and it has conscious experiences. So computer consciousness is not just possible, it's commonplace. These experts differ, however, on why exactly the brain can be conscious. They don't understand consciousness. We'll discuss some of that today and why computers right now can't be conscious, but it seems like we're heading that direction based on Revelation 13:15. So these scientists, Susanna Schellenberg and Joseph Ledoux, are arguing for an environmental view on consciousness, that it's a physicalist view. There isn't anything special in the world. It's all evolutionary. It's random. It's chance. It's easier to imagine that humans aren't alone in possessing consciousness. We write poetry and rabbits don't. Wow, that's one of the worst analogies ever, as far as we can tell. So there's a degree of difference. No, there's a huge difference and differences. And then Joseph Ledoux down below, all of our mental states, emotional states are not inherited from animals. They're cognitively assembled based on our knowledge. So basically, we put together our consciousness into schemas, and it's our template of conscious experience. No, that isn't how it works. That is Greek mentality. It's not a Hebrew thought, and we're going to be discussing more of the Hebrew than the Greek today. And here's another article from Springer Link from Giorgio Marchetti. And every one of us has his own way of extracting, storing, and interpreting information. And it's based on evolutionary antecedents. So he's basically saying that we're building this as we go. The primary means we have to process information in a way that we can meet our individual and personal needs. It allows all of us to process information, but in an individual way. So at least he's right with that. That is according to our personal individual. And I'm arguing that the parts of what we are put together by God, and it does make us an individual. So he's correct in some ways, but it's still the evolutionary thing. Consciousness either is or isn't, and it doesn't evolve. So let's do the philosophy of the end of days, and we'll talk about the code of life and hacking it and things like that. I'm telling you, the Satanists know what's going on. Spirit Cooking, so that's Marina Abramovich, and there's Lady Gaga to the left of her. And they understand that life is in the blood. The Satan knows what's going on in a certain way. And so all the players are part of this, and they want to increase their lifespan to 1,000 years potentially, and they want to have less of us. They think of us as useless eaters, and so they'd like to narrow us down from 7.777 billion down to 500 million. And so this is the Georgia Guidestones, and it's their way of saying that they want us to evolve and they want us to devolve personally in terms of less people, and they want abortion, and they want they, I don't know. They don't want religion anymore. They can't stand that. So this is the demonic pledge. And and so what they really wanted to do, first of all, over the last 50 years, is crack the code of the DNA. And hopefully there would be a God code there. And what they really found out was design. They didn't crack, they cracked the code in terms of what it is, but all they really figured out was you could turn on proteins or turn off proteins. It's on and off. It's like a light switch. And so, yes, you can crack the code and figure things out. And they really didn't use computers to do it. It was pencil and paper. So 50 years after the discovery by Francis Crick and James Watson, they really didn't find the God particle. They didn't find it. All they could do is really turn on, say in this case, they could modify animals to glow in the dark. Oh boy, a fish, a bunny, monkeys, dogs, cats, pigs, sheep, whatever, but that's modification. That's not creation, people. So what is the spark of life in us? Well, we'll have to keep on searching. First, we'll go through some scriptures. So this is an article by Torah Club, Volume 5, by Daniel D. Thomas Lancaster, friend of mine, brilliant man. And so this is from him, and then I put my little comments in there too. So then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath, Neshamah, of life, and the man became a living being. That is the animal soul part of him. He's a living nephesh. That's Genesis 2:7 with my little highlights in it. And so it's my contention that God scoops up dust, the afar, from the Adama, which is the earth, so dust of the earth, breathes Neshamah into us to give life, kai, to become a living being, a nephesh, a living nephesh, and then at some point in time we die, when the various jello-like components separate until the resurrection. Humans seem to have a ruach, a spirit, and that would be, I'm blanking on the Greek word for that, but we'll see it in a minute. As opposed to God's spirit, that's the Ruach HaKodesh. Both Hebrew and Greek words are feminine, including, oh goodness, I'm having problems with my Greek today, Shekinah. That's actually Hebrew, but that is feminine also. It's not technically in the Bible, which is like a mantle that is offered and may be taken back for certain reasons and seasons, things like that. So God gives and he takes it away. We'll find verses prove that through. So God made Adam as a hybrid of spirit and flesh. This is Lancaster speaking. Man possesses two souls, a divine soul and an animal soul. So an animal nephesh. The divine soul is that pre-existent aspect of soul. Remember Revelation 6:9-11, where you have the people that were slaughtered, the martyrs, we'll call them, that are underneath the altar in heaven, calling out, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge the people of the earth that killed those people?" So basically, there's a pre-existent aspect of the soul. We call it that their neshama is in the goof under the altar in heaven, and then he takes that and puts it into a person, and then when they die, the neshama goes back. And we'll see that more as I show you more of the verses. So the aspect of the soul, the breath of God, which he breathes into human beings, is a portion of his own essence and survives after death. And it's there in the Bible. The animal soul is the human life force which animates the flesh. The animal soul provides our mortal vitality, our sense of self and sentience. The common word for soul is nephesh, but the nephesh is seldom used to refer to the immortal spiritual element of the divine soul, the neshama. Instead, the nephesh refers to a person's psyche, the self, and the personality. The mystics describe the nephesh as a man's thought, speech, and action. Even animals have a nephesh. I call it programming. We're people, but we have basic programs. We have to breathe. That's going to happen anyway, whether we're knocked unconscious or not. So the nephesh handles those types of activity, reflexive type things. its inclination and appetites are carnal. So you have the, I know, we call it Yetzer Hara and Yetzer HaTov. And so it's that inclination to do evil, that's that little demon on one shoulder, and then on your right shoulder you'd have the inclination to do good. So we have these appetites that are carnal, maternal, selfish. Its influence over man leads us to selfishness, lust, greed, and sin. But it really isn't evil because we can overcome it. God makes us this way. The animal soul can be harnessed and brought under the influence of the divine soul and into the service of God. Okay, so that's D. Thomas Lancaster, wonderful, brilliant theologian. And so I'll give you a couple of verses that match up with this again. So we're going to dig through Genesis 2:7 one more time. The Hebrew word for breath in Genesis 2:7 is Neshamah. The same word is commonly used in Judaism to refer to the divine soul. The Neshamah entered Adam as a breath of life. God breathed into him. The divine soul is the source for our innate thirst for God. The apostles refer to it as the Spirit, and not to be confused with the Spirit of God or the Holy Spirit. According to apostolic theology, the spirit within man is dead until it is quickened by salvation and brought to life and communion with the Holy Spirit. To enter a human being, the neshama must leave its abode in the heavens and inhabit the earthly body. Then the nephesh, that's our personality, and neshama, the divine soul, bind together but remain distinct. So I described it as jellos. So they're together but they're distinct. At death, the nephesh perishes with the body, but the neshama returns to its source. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit, the ruach in this case, will return to God who gave it. That's from Ecclesiastes, and we'll read that again in a moment. He's citing that. So that's from Daniel Lancaster again. So here's the verses. So the first rule is Leviticus 17, 10 and 11. Whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the ger, that's the sojourners among you, which would be the Gentiles, the righteous Gentiles, that eats any matter of the blood, I will set my face against the nephesh, the animal soul of that person that eats the blood, and I will cut him off from among his people, and the nephesh of the flesh, the basar, is the dam, the blood, and I have given it to you for the matzbeach, the altar, to make covering for your nefeshot, for it is the dam that maketh the covering, the blood that maketh the covering for the nephesh. So those are the rules. And so let's look at Ecclesiastes and see how it processes throughout life and death. So I've said in mine heart, as for the sons of Adam, the God, our God, test them, that they might see that they themselves are like the animals, the behemoth. For the sons of Adam and the behemoth, the animals, share one and the same mikrek of fortune. One dies, so the other dies. Yea, they all have one breath, the Ruach HaKod, so that the Adam, the man, hath no advantage above the animals, for it is all meaningless. And all go to the same place, the Makom HaKod. All are of the afar, the dust, and shall return to the afar again. Who has the intelligence, the da'at, of the Ruach B'nai, of Ha'adam, of the man? Who knows if he goes up, or the Ruach of the animal goes down to the earth? So he's basically saying, who knows if this son of Adam is going to go up, or if the animals go down? When my dog Jack died years ago, I prayed and I was able to see, I would call them I would call them sparkles to be less technical, and say, I saw it go up, guys. Okay, I saw Jack go up, or whatever was eternal with him. Now, he was loved, and so I can't say that all animals will go to heaven, but I could say that probably some do. So that was Ecclesiastes 3:18 through 21, and then we'll continue on to Ecclesiastes 12. But the man goes to his, once again, this is the eternal home. Olam is eternal, and that's the Ashkenaz term for bait. And the mourners go about on the streets, and then the silver cord be loosed. Is that the DNA cord? I don't know. Then the golden bowl be broken. Well, we're made out of clay, so is that our golden bowl? And the pitcher be broken at the fountain, and the wheel broken at the cistern, and then shall the afar return to the earth as it was, and the Ruach shall return to God who gave it. Very interesting. So you can see how things are put together by God, and then they're taken apart. These three separate pieces go their different directions. So, continuing on in Psalms, and this should agree with what we've been talking about, he shall summon the heaven from above and on the earth, that he may judge his people, gather my chassidim, which are the righteous ones, together unto me, those who have cut a brit, a covenant with me by zavak, so a blood sacrifice. So it's tied into sacrifices. And Yeshua is our ultimate sacrifice from Revelation 13:8. He was the first one. He was sacrificed before anybody else. The nephesh that sins, it shall die, Ezekiel 18:20. So then continuing on to Revelation 13:8, which we talked about just a moment ago, that Yeshua was slain from the foundation of the earth. So before the foundation of the world, Yeshua was slain. Okay, so we know what's going on, that's the first sacrifice, but then we had to have sacrifices after that as a reminder of his sacrifice all the way through. And the sacrifices come back again in Ezekiel 40 through 48. So we can have soul ties to other animals and other people. So this is Judah speaking now. Now, therefore, when I come to this place, and the Na'ar, Benjamin, is not with us, seeing that his Nephesh, that's Judah's soul, is bound up with the Nephesh of Benjamin's soul. Our souls may become intertwined with kids, spouses, pets, but our Neshamah remains separate and intact. It's unique. As for thee also, the dam of the Brit, I release thy prisoners out of the pit, wherein there is no water. And so that's from Zechariah 9:11. So notice the blood of the covenant is essential to Israel's Orthodox faith. My son, obey your father's command, Torah, and don't abandon your mother's teaching, Torah, for the mitzvah, that's the good things we get to do, loving, living the Torah, which is Yeshua, is a lamp. Torah is a light. We're going to be talking about light in a minute here. It's very interesting and scientific, and reproves that discipline are the way to life. Proverbs 6:20 and 23. The Neshamah of Adam is the Ner, the light of Hashem, searching all the innermost, your second brain, your internal organs, the Beten. So that's Proverbs 20:27. So there's a light connection to life and Neshamah. And so let's see, biblically, that sounds good. So let's continue on with a couple more verses here from Genesis and John. So we'll read John first. So I'm saying that it's creation plus his light gives life. So all things through him, Yeshua, came to be, and without him came to be not one thing which came into being. And he gives the verses for that. In him is life, and the life was the light of the sons of Adam. And the light, shines in the darkness. Hoshek is darkness. And the Hoshek did not grasp it. So that's John 1:3 through 5, which reads a lot like Genesis 1:2 through 4. And the earth was tohu vavohu, without form and void, and the darkness was upon the face of the deep. That's like Hoshek. Okay, and the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, was hovering above the face of the waters, and Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light. And Elohim saw the light, and it was tov, good. And Elohim divided the light from the Hoshek, the darkness. So you can see that there's light in creation and the spark of life at conception. So doctors have noticed a zinc type of a spark that occurs at conception, and it seems to be there's a flash of light that sparks when the sperm meets the egg. Interesting. We don't know why, but it occurs. And then this is another spark of fertilization captured by UT marine scientists. So it happens within animal life, and once again, it's the zinc that's sparking. And then the Catholic Church came out and said, no, that doesn't happen. We don't like that theology. So there's no flash of light at conception. There is, it doesn't match with their theology, so they'll deny it. I'm arguing that biophotons are the issue. So we talked already about the fact that they can crack the DNA, but they can't crack the God code. So biophotons seem to be what that is. That's why I wanted to show you those verses, contrasting light with creation, with life. And light and life match up together based on Genesis and John 1. So biophotons are the photons of light which are stored in our DNA cells. So rather than going down to the DNA level, we're way past that. We're in the proton, we're down to the electron, proton, we're down to the atomic level. That's where the spark of light is. And the problem is you can't observe it. So with biophotons, we can observe some natures of it, but we can't observe it because of, say, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. When you look at something like, if you want to really observe an electron, once you observe it, it doesn't relate in its natural format. It changes when it's observed, and so it isn't where you think it'll be, and that's the problem with protons, electrons, and other nuclear theory. Um, and so that's quantum mechanics. So I want to read the cartoons on the bottom. Now, every now and then, I feel that my existence is justified. So what I'm getting at is with biophotons, that anxieties from Charlie Brown and Are You Depressed? For some odd reason, biophotons are related to intelligence and your attitude. We'll see that with lithium. Lithium also increases brain concentrations of the neuronal markers, and I'm not going to go into all of that stuff, but it can work against seizures and other issues with neurotoxins. So it's interesting that basically what I'm getting at with biophotons, and I don't want to read this whole thing, but this is a YouTube video that you could hit. It's poorly done, horribly done, but biophotons are simply light that is emitted from biological materials such as the human body or any life form. The biophotons are just outside the range of visible light with shorter wavelengths and faster frequency. Just like visible light, they are electromagnetic waves, and the same as other waves in the electromagnetic spectrum, which ranges from radio waves that have very long wavelength and relatively slow frequency through to gamma rays with a very short wavelength and a fast frequency. I need to drop down to the green section here. They have to form an interactive base for classical physics, biology, and chemistry. So it does fit into the other sciences, but this is where the biophoton comes in by creating a certain degree of order. So the order by God, which is transferred by the spontaneous absorption and emission of light with the movement of the charge. So biophotons are very interesting. They're described as a wavelength of the light for some odd reason, and they seem to have a deep meaning, but we really don't quite understand them yet. So the only way we can kind of figure them out is by lithium and how lithium interacts with us. And lithium is quite an interesting metal, and they really didn't know anything about lithium until just the last century. I think it was 1949 that they discovered them, lithium and what it did. It's not really found on Earth, and so, but it for some reason it adds light into the brain and helps with certain issues. So lithium's ability to act as a tranquilizer for people suffering from mania and bipolar disorder was discovered in 1949. Yes, so it's fairly recent here. And it's difficult for scientists to determine which of these interactions produce mood stabilization. So lithium works, but they don't know why. And it works well with sleep deprivation and other things like that. But why? We don't know why. But it is related to light and life. So more than being able to describe biophotons, we can describe what lithium behaves like in relation to light and life. So precise molecular determinants of lithium action remain unclear. so it helps people with super sensitivity to light and bipolar disorder. So why? But we don't know why lithium works, and we really don't know what biophotons are. So this is really getting techie here, but basically this is because recent research suggests a link between intelligence and the frequency of biophotons in animals' brains. So the scientists are coming together and seeing that there's a link with the intelligence and frequency of biophotons. Interesting. And then there's the entangled Posner molecules are then taken up into neurons. They bind and release calcium ions, triggering entangled neuron activation. Who knows what they're talking about? The bottom line is that quantum physics plays a role in consciousness. It just does. We can't figure out what biophotons are, but we can observe some of the interactions with other chemicals, like, as we mentioned, lithium. So Why? Why do the big tech people want to study the interaction and cause this event that is Revelation 13:15? Because they want to live to be 1,000 years. They want to live forever, if not 1,000 years, if forever. And so they want to be like Methuselah, and he lived to be 969. He was the oldest. So his death shall bring is one way of stating it, but it's really his death shall, the Shelakim would be the sent out ones, and so his death shall send them out. Okay, so Elon Musk, he says really his main goal is that based on the fact that we're going to have a nuclear Armageddon sooner or later, he wants to be on Mars because he wants to keep the species going because he doesn't believe in God. Well, I don't really worship anything. I don't even pray. I didn't even pray when I almost died of malaria. So that's your typical tech guy. He sees an order, but no design, no designer. So let's go on and talk about tech and what big tech has planned for us. Al Gore is saying that he has the technology to track identities of greenhouse gas emitters. Well, that could be us or some industry. We get data consistently from 300 existing satellites, more than 11,000 ground-based, air-based, and sea-based sensors, multiple internet data streams, and using artificial intelligence to determine who these gas guzzlers are. And so basically, if he can track that way, then they could release drones and take people out based on what they want to do, which is get rid of population. And then they can live forever and they can share AI with computers, which may be consciousness at some point in time. I don't know. It seems like they're going to be able to hack it. And so, evil twins of transhumanism and technocracy driving the world toward humanity 2.0. And so that's by Leo Hohmann. Very interesting article. And then on the right hand side, Dr. David Martin, I just think he's the most wonderful doctor on the planet. He's saying right now they've built a bioweapon formed for a post extinction rewrite of humanity. And so they'd like to rewrite us, but only the people that are wealthy, not the regular people like us. So the government and billionaire oligarchs and big pharma, big data, big media, the high finance robber barons, and all of these people want to create pandemics, and they want to get rid of the useless air breathers, and they just want the wealthy people to survive. And so just keep in mind that this is by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He sees what big tech is planning to do to us and how, according to Catherine Austin Fitts, they will control you. Complete control system, 2030 slavery system, controls human resources and robotic resources, ID tracking system, as I mentioned, with drones that can attack you. And it's all handing all of our control over to big tech, big satellites, big pharma, big media, big woke, big banks, big China, big church. Big church isn't good, people. Okay, there are small little churches that are good, but these big ones, they're businesses. Okay, big slavery, big cosmos. You'll have a lot of different players on the earth that are going to be evil, in addition to those big, whatever they happen to be. You'll have the Antichrist, the false prophet, you'll have Gog, you'll have these weird creatures from Revelation chapter 9. You'll have 10 big tech horns, you'll have Satan, his fallen angels, you're going to have demons. It's going to be very, very active. So why does it matter? Once again, Revelation 13:15, and it was given to give breath, pneuma, ruach, Neshamah, maybe consciousness, to the idol, the image of the anti-Messiah. And that idol is of the beast, might even speak, and might cause that as many as would not worship the idol, the image of the beast, to be killed and to die. And God will be blessed by this, but it's going to be bizarre, people. So at some point in time, they want to crack the biophotons, I believe, and figure out how consciousness works. And I think that's light and life. That seems to be the case. So once again, we're talking about computer intelligence. We have that right now. But I don't think we have computer breath consciousness right now, but they're trying to crack that. And I think that's important because that seems to be the case in Revelation 13:15. So I'll give you a nice verse to lead out here, a couple of things to make you happy. So it is with the resurrection of the dead. When the body is sown, it decays. When it is raised, it cannot decay. When sown, it is without dignity. When raised, it will be beautiful. When sown, it is weak. When raised, it will be strong. When sown, it is an ordinary human body. When raised, it will be a body controlled by the Spirit. If there is an ordinary human body, there is also a body controlled by the Spirit. In fact, the Tanakh says Adam, the first man, became a living human being, but the last Adam has become a life-giving spirit. Note, however, that the body of the Spirit did not come first, but the ordinary human one, the one from the Spirit, came afterwards, or comes afterwards. The first man is from the earth, made of dust, the Afar, from the Adama. The second man is from heaven, Yeshua. People born of the dust are like the man of dust, and people born from heaven are like the man from heaven. AI tech won't be able to crack that. And just as if we have been born in the image of the man of dust, so we will bear the image of the man from heaven. So that's 1 Corinthians 15:42 through 49. What I want to point out to you is they can crack the code, but they can't crack what God has with us, which is a relationship. And so we want to be more like the Yeshua, the Mashiach, rather than like Adam, and they'll crack the Adam code, it looks like. So we're in the birth pangs. We're moving from seal 3 to seal 4. They're trying to kill us off. Is there life in the blood? They'll crack. It looks like they can crack it now. It looks like, based on Revelation 13:15, they can crack it. There are good people involved in the end of days. The 144,000, the two witnesses, the earthborn hagios, kedoshim we call them, which are good people that are believers. There will be angels and archangels involved too. And so we want to minister to those that are in between right now. Some people are already are written into the book of death, but some are in between. So we want to minister to those people as things move forward. We want to wear white garments. It's a wedding, people. So that's the end. Be blessed. Thank you very much for your time.